The biggest thing is an agent has to if you want to convert leads at a super high level that are internet based, you have to get comfortable with not knowing what not focusing on what to say and being able to listen to the lead.
Well, welcome everyone. We're here talking to a really awesome guest. Someone I found on the interwebs, doing a really awesome job, and doing what I like to see leaders in the industry do, which is adding value, helping people out. And I found Chris in an online community. He was publishing his daily call numbers, like calls, time on the phone, contacts, appointments, and just publishing it and publishing it. And I'm like, hey man, what's up with this? Like, and we got to talking, and I can usually tell when someone knows what they're talking about. So I was really impressed with his story, and that's why he's here today. So we'll be talking about how he's able to scale up as an individual producer up to 40 units, 12 million, mostly on the back of internet leads, which I think is really interesting. He's kind of cracked the code, and he's got a big goal for this year, and we're going to keep tabs on that for you, Chris. So, Chris, why don't you introduce yourself here for folks in the group? Tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what brought you into real estate. Go for it, Chris.
Sure, man. My name is Chris Sanford. I'm based in Orlando, and I kind of just fell into real estate. I think a lot of people kind of just fall into it, honestly, Gus. And there was no master plan here. It was by convenience, really. I knew someone in the business. Kind of give a little bit of a background. As I started off with Costco wholesale when I was 17. I ended up there for 13 years, and I ended up needing to exit to find more time for my family that just wasn't happening since I was in management. So that's really the premise on why I left the corporate world and
It
went
was a
into self.
lifestyle choice. You say, you know what,
Yes,
corporate world isn't meeting my goals with my personal time, my family, my financial goals all together. It's all together, right? So it wasn't doing it for you on all levels. So
right.
you made a change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a paradigm shift that can happen if you allow it to. And I think that everyone probably goes through that at some point. It just, are they awake and listening to what's going on? Because, like I was sharing with you before, my son hit a year old. I'm at Costco 6 days plus a week, 70, 80 hours a week. He didn't know who I was. Gus, I couldn't hold him. I couldn't play with him. I couldn't change him. I couldn't feed him. I couldn't even help him meet his birthday. He didn't know me because I was never there. And that was not okay with me. And that's why I had to make the change.
Yeah, a wake up call. It's kind of a wake up call, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And and at Costco, it's not like you're like a cashier stocking the shelves. I mean, you were in sales, right? Because people might think of Costco as a retail store. It's not really sales. No. There's a big sales component at Costco. Tell us about that. What was your
Yeah.
sales role within that organization?
What's interesting is I got opportunities to grow with the company because of what I was doing with membership and credit card sales. It had nothing to do with when I was a manager, I was managing the food court. I had nothing to do with sales as far as what I was doing that
Ah,
got me the opportunity. So through doing the sales of the at the time, it started off as Amex and the membership, the executive membership. During that time, I went from being the person that was just a rock star in an Orlando store to then traveling to four other locations and training their staff on what I was doing in Orlando. And that's
got it.
what ended up giving me the opportunity to grow with Costco.
They got to. So, people saw they were doing a good job. And, smart organizations do this, right? So they share best practices. They kind of, elevate people in those roles, and I love Costco, man. I'm a client, been a client for like 20 years at this point. I think it's a really well-run organization, to be honest with you. So that's great. And it's known as a really good place to work. It's known as a really good place to work. So now you got to tell us, what was the transition from a pretty interesting corporate opportunity? You were growing there, people saw you as a leader there. I'm from the corporate world as well, so I'm asking you this because I see myself in you. I struggle with that myself, right? There's this path. There's the manager and the regional manager and the general manager and all these things, right? They have this path for you to take if you want to take it. But what was that transition like to go, you know what? I want to try something different. real estate sales is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, and you had a family to take care of. How did you manage that transition? Because I'm always interested. There's always a great story there too.
So yeah, and I'm gonna do my best to stay professional on that topic because there was a lot of things and inner workings on why this it was my son was the core of this. But a
Got it.
big portion of that, Gus, was I read the writing on the walls. There's managers that are there a long time. There's a lot of stuff going on with those individuals that I did not want to live through. And I'm not going to dig too much into that. But there was just writing on the walls that I read way before I ever had to get to it. And I just learned from other people's mistakes, learned through other people's failures. And that's really where I think I kind of turbocharged my whole like my whole mindset and shift and all that stuff because I started listening to I really went deep on Zig Ziglar when I first started getting into management. Like when I became a supervisor and started working my way up, I dug really deep into that stuff and I started changing who I was in my thought process. So at the time, that's what I wanted. I wanted the warehouse. I wanted to be the GM. That's what I was going for, but it just wasn't for me. And that's one thing. Like when you're in management, they expect their company over everything. That's the priority.
So, and when you're in leadership role, right, you're in retail. Retail. There's no excuses in retail. I don't know if people realize this, but American consumers, especially at Costco. I think Costco. I was hearing some data. I think that like the median income of a Costco customer is like 100,000 a year, right? So these are
Yeah,
these are
probably.
professionals. These guys are not for the faint of heart. To deal with folks like this, they expect a lot, right? They're not going
Yep.
to take any excuses because it's a very hyper retail in the U.S. hyper competitive and really really high bar on the customer service side. So yeah, not definitely not for the faint of heart. And how did you manage that transition? Did you take that cold turkey, like put in your your 2 week notice and ran for it? How did you manage that transition? Because that's not easy.
So I tried to quit there at least 10 times.
Oh
I
wow.
tried to quit 10 times and they begged me not to leave.
Wow.
I told them the only way that I was going to stay is if they decided to if they would create a position for me to do training on the sales that I was doing before I ever became a manager and let me
Got it.
travel and do that. They weren't open to thinking outside the box and trying to find a position or create one for me. Even though those 5 stores, I didn't even mention this, the 5 stores that I went to and I trained on these things and on my techniques, there's a southeast, northeast, it's all regional things, right? So I don't know how many stores are in the southeast then, well over probably 100, but in the southeast there's a top 10 rating for this thing that they call e-blocks, which is when they do a really hard push for executive memberships. Well, when they do that, they everyone's watching this top 10 in the southeast numbers like a hawk for that whole week. Well, every store that I went to, after my first two there and training people, they were in the top 10 until I left Costco, as far as I know. So at one point, all 5 stores that I trained were all in the Southeast top 10 at the same time in the top five
Out of
positions.
100. Out of 100, that's right. Not bad, right? So there's a pattern there. There's a pattern there. And now I'm curious, Chris. So it seems like you had a system, you had a process. Number one, to make a lot of sales, and number two, to train a large group of people that you may not be super familiar with on these techniques. What was that about? Is it scripting? Is it role play? Is it like put it in the language that our real estate audience can understand? What is it that you went and did with these teams that got them performing at a high level so quickly?
Sure, and I want to touch on that, but I want to answer your other question first
Go.
because I'm actually writing a book about that topic that you asked me, and that was basically how did I go from being a manager in a salary position to just quitting. And it certainly took a lot of risk and a lot of faith. My
With the
wife and I are very
family.
faithful.
Because
Yes.
I made that transition when I was married with no kids, and I'm like I don't know if I would have done it with kids, to be really honest with you. So I'm like I know how difficult that can be, right?
Yep. And it was certainly scary. And I mean, anyone who's going to be doing something like this, it's scary because you haven't done it yet. And it can be really scary if you don't have the right people helping you do it, whatever it is. So the way that that transition played out for me is basically I started saving up money on the side, and it just was taking too long. So I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, listen, this is going to take too long. I don't want to be here anymore. It's to the point now where I'm losing money because I'm stuck here. So I need to find a way out of here. And I said, listen, this is the day I'm going to leave. Um, and I put it like it was probably a year in advance. And
Wow.
it ended up happening in 8 months instead of 12. But I
Okay.
did try to quit multiple times. And essentially what I did, Gus, to kind of to bridge the gap financially between salary position and part-time agent
That
was I
steady
sold my
paycheck.
house. I sold the house. I sold my
Holy
house.
cow.
I took
Holy
all the
cow.
equity out of the home sale. I put it in the bank and I lived on it while I was building a business.
There you go.
You either
That's it. I love
that's all
that.
I did.
Because I have a similar story. Well, not as hardcore as you. I moved out of my house. I rented my big, I was in the corporate world before. I worked in Microsoft. I rented out my Microsoft house. I sold one of my Microsoft cars, and we moved into a one-bedroom apartment. Right? Because I had some money saved up, but I knew I didn't know. I don't know what I don't know. It's gonna be a learning curve. I need runway. I need
Yep.
runway, and I need to stretch this money I've got as long as humanly possible to at least I'm going to learn what I can learn, and I gotta sometimes gotta spend my way out of my mistakes, right? What you and because it's a process, it's not easy, right? And so I'm hearing it and it's resonating 100% because that transition is treacherous, not easy to do. Not you really got to think through those things. So I'm loving that because I totally understand how difficult and challenging that can be. So you're out on your own. You're starting in real estate, coming from the corporate world, got a little bit of cash saved up, right? That can also lead you astray, by the way. Having a bunch of money when you're getting started in real estate, can actually, make you make some bad decisions. What brought you to
Yeah.
internet leads? Why that, right? Why was that something that popped in as a lead source you wanted to focus on? Because most agents don't start there.
So, like I said before, I had a friend that was in the business and he had been trying to get me to come into real estate ever since he actually sold us our first house. And he was always
Ah,
trying to get us involved ever since he ran into me when I was doing sales at Costco, which was way before I ever went to my second store to train them.
got it.
And when uh, when I came back and I came back to the town because I did travel for a little bit doing that, um, he popped back up, and that was around the same time that my son was born, and it was just
Got
like,
it.
yeah, dude, I got a kid on the way. I don't have time for that. But eventually, as you all know now, I ended up taking the risk, and I jumped and went to his team, and I was on his team while I was part time,
Got
and
it.
they told me. Now, this team generates their own leads through Zillow, Realtor.com. It's dissipated at this point, but they were doing their own lead gen. And when I started, they said, listen, we're not going to give you the live calls. We're not going to give you the leads that are coming in right now. Here's access to this dialing system. Here's access to the leads. These are leads that are all in the trash. You can start working in the trash leads, work through those, and let's see how you do.
Knock
And then you
yourself
practice
out,
on
Chris.
those.
Knock yourself out. There's something in there, I'm sure. Go for it.
Right. So I built a freaking business out of their trash because they had agents that couldn't convert
Wow.
it.
Love it. I'm loving that. I'm loving that because that's something I tell, agents and clients all the time. That pond, that trash, that bottom rung is worthless if you don't work it. So it's wasted. It's gone. Pick up the phone, make something happen. Oh, something can happen from there. But you got to get someone that's motivated to do it. I love that. You came in hungry, right? There's no way but up for you. There is no fail, right? Gotta make it work no
Yeah,
matter what.
this.
Pounded the phone on their old leads. It sounds like that's what you did. Pounded
Oh
the
yeah,
phone
they
on
were
those
all
old
old.
leads.
They
Gotcha.
were all
Aged
old,
the aged
stale.
internet lead.
Yep. And what's really crazy about it, thinking about it now, is that I remember when I'm looking because there's notes in this in the CRM that they were using, and there's notes, and these people are saying all this craziness, and it's like the number is bad. Okay, well I'm gonna call it anyway. I call it, and it's the right number, and it's just because the the, the most important thing in anything that's done sales related is the first 20 seconds of that conversation. How you sound, how you present yourself, what questions you ask, if you ask any. That is what will guard that's what's going to set the tone for that whole conversation. And a lot of people they skip that. They don't they're so busy, dude. I don't go to broker opens. I don't go to coffee chats. I don't go to anything that people are licensed at except big events for EXP, which I'm part of, and I love the people that I'm part of, and we fill each other with ideas, and it's actually a collaboration instead of, hey, let's get a. This is what it ends up being for me. Is I go to an event, it's to me it's stale. It happens like once a week or whatever it is, and it's just like these people are literally just spending money, eating, drinking coffee and whatever here, and they're literally just talking about stuff that just doesn't make sense. Like it just doesn't make sense. So a lot of new agents they get involved in those things, they get sucked into them, and then they feel like they have to do things a certain way and they have to be part of these networking groups. And networking groups are good, but let's get you to build a business first, and then you have something to talk
100%.
about.
Yeah, 100%. You can be really busy, can make yourself really busy and not get any income. That's just not a good combination, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So you're hitting this pond. Again, you're not hitting it, because a lot of agents try that and they're not successful. You had an unfair advantage, and I love those unfair advantage compared to other people. You've spoken to people you didn't know before in your role in Costco, and you had kind of figured out a way to introduce yourself, deliver some value, right? And get them to purchase, in this case, an executive membership, and get them involved. So I'm guessing some of those, some of that muscle, some of that work had kind of kicked in, and you somehow you made the transition from pitching and selling executive memberships to pitching and selling your services as an agent. I'm guessing.
Uh, to an extent, yeah. I mean, it certainly gave me the confidence I needed to make those calls.
Love it.
That and a lot of like I mean, Zig Ziglar was obviously passed away when I started following him, and Jim Rohn, but those guys, they're a lot of the majority of their content is timeless. So, the human body, as far as conversations and stuff goes, it's not really changing that much. I mean, the words might change, but the way we interact with each other and the way that we have emotional feelings towards certain words, if I say happy, you'll feel happy. If I say death, you might feel a little, oh, apprehensive. There
Awkward.
might be something there. Words are really powerful, and once you understand that, you can really take control of the power of a phone. And
Got it.
that's
Got
that
it.
that's really the biggest thing, man, is just being diligent in that. And yeah, go back to what you were asking me before about script practice. Absolutely. Script practice, when I first started, script practice was a daily thing. I built a team. I had 15 agents. The agents didn't want to sell. I got tired of holding hands and bleeding money for the leads I was buying. I got rid of all the agents. Then I have a completely new format that I'll share at some point, but I don't have agents anymore. And I've last year was my best year so far.
I got it. And you were able to sell, 40 homes, over 12 million in volume, which is amazing. And the majority of those you said came from like the internet. What's your walk us through your process, right? Are you getting leads from, is it platform, Google, Facebook, is it Zillow, is it realtor.com? And what's your approach? New lead comes in. What's your plan of attack when a new lead comes in?
Yeah, so I mean, we all like the majority of the leads that I'm calling are cold. Right? They might have clicked buttons, but they didn't expect. Most of the people that you call are not expecting a phone call, and they're certainly not expecting a phone call in less than 3 minutes. So when you call them at a certain when you get to a certain level of reaction, then they'll be like, "Whoa, that was pretty fast." And you'll catch them off guard a little bit if you get there fast enough. And it's kind of like, "Yeah, I'm doing it right. Yeah, that's right." And it's really like the whole premise of my connection, and we could even do a role play here if you wanted to, just for example.
Sure.
But the reality of getting introduced in that first 20 seconds is I don't tell you who I am. I don't tell you why I'm calling. I'm hitting you at a more personal level. And then I'm going to tell you why I'm calling. And then eventually I'm going to tell you who I am. But if you start the phone call off with who you are, you've already killed the whole purpose of someone keeping the ear, like their ear to the phone. That's the only leverage you have in those 20 seconds is holding the privacy of who you are. And as soon as you let that go, they just have no reason not to hang up on you. So if you can protect that one thing and you can get them to talk to you, maybe make them laugh, whatever you have to do. And that's why, I was in Lab Coat Agents and someone asked me about helping them with scripts. And I just sent them a message. I'm like, hey, just shoot me a DM, whatever. I'll help you with scripts. And because what I do is custom made. Like if I'm gonna help someone, I'll help you. I'll help you for free. But I gotta do it, like I gotta be in touch with you to do it. So the thing is if I'm gonna make a custom script for you, I have to know who you are. I can't make a script for you and not know your personality. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we could talk. Well, I'm not going to drop the name. We could do hey, here's a script book. Go and do your thing. Like I have a training manual on things that I train on and I coach on for my clients, but I don't throw the book at them. We go through these things one at a time. And my coaching platform, Gus, it's pretty like barbaric. Okay, in a sense of the way it works, there's not a lot of technology there. It's me hands-on training these agents because honestly, I just don't trust anybody else to do it right yet.
Got it. No, I love that, and that makes a ton of sense. So let's walk it through. I mean, you want if you want to do a role play, I'll be the lowly internet lead. And let's say I'm guessing it's like a Google pay per click is like I'm browsing properties, or tell me what the setup is, and I'll jump right into it. And
Yeah,
you're
so
calling me.
let's just say you were searching on the internet, you might end up buying, you don't know, or whatever. And I just want to like really focus on the first 20 seconds. And I want you to be mean to me. I don't want you to take it soft. Be an asshole. Excuse my
Okay,
language. I don't know if that's allowed, but
no
be
worries,
mean
that's
to me,
fine.
man. Be mean to me. So ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hello, Gus.
Yeah, who's this?
Hey, Gus. This is Chris Sanford. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right. I'm kind of busy now, Chris. What's this about?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'll keep it short and sweet because I don't, like you said, it sounds like you're busy. I want to make the most use of your time, Gus. So if now's not a good time, I can call you back later.
But yeah, but tell me what it's about.
Okay, no worries. So you just started clicking buttons, right? You were looking at some houses here in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you start clicking buttons, the partners of these companies start calling me.
Oh, okay. So you're a real estate agent.
Yes, sir, I am. Yeah, that's exactly what I
Uh,
am. But I definitely don't want to. I don't want to rush you in a conversation, Gus. And I'm zero pressure. But I want to make sure I don't do a disservice to you and try to rush a phone call. I would really like to take the time to actually approach this the right way. When's the best time I can call you back?
how about, later this afternoon?
Perfect. We'll set it up. The thing is I want to control the objection before you can give it.
Got it. Got it, guys. You're not trying to have the buyer consult right then and there.
Absolutely
If
not.
they're in a rush, if they're not receptive to it, you're like, perfect. No
I'm
need to rush things. No need to be the pressure people.
I'm not having a buyer consult on a phone call like that at all.
Got it.
That
Got it.
phone call is just an introduction phone call for me. That phone
Got
call
it.
is to set the buyer appointment.
Got it, guys. So you're setting up a time to actually like, they're free, they're available, and then they're actually gonna have a conversation with you when the time is right.
Right. And typically what would have happened in that conversation is I would have found out, are you married? Are you engaged? Is there another deciding factor part? Is there someone else that's a decision maker that needs to be involved? Because if there is, Gus, I want to make sure that I take their opinion in consideration. I'm sure that you and them will also appreciate that. So when are you both available? You
Got
know,
it. Got it. Got it.
so
Got
I'm
it.
going to make sure that all the decision makers are there. I don't want any excuses or anything being misconstrued or, you know, dropped in translation. I want to be able to control, like I control, I want to control the communication, period.
Got it. Got it. And tell me, so it like someone are they pre-approved? What's their timeline? How many bedrooms and bathrooms? Is that something you go into later on? That's not something you have on the first conversation. It's all about, where they are in the process.
Pretty much. I mean, I'll get a little bit from them. It depends on where they take it. If they start, or do you work in this area? Well, absolutely. I'll dig into that a little bit and ask some of those questions. But the biggest thing that a lot of agents do, especially listing agents, when they get a sign call, is they give away the farm. They give everything away on the phone call. Guys, you got to leave meat on the bone. You got to leave a reason for them to have a reason to talk. Period. If you don't, they're going to call someone else that they know from 20 years ago, and they're going to show them the house. They probably have only sold one house in the last 3 years, and they're going to get the commission that if you would have handled it the right way, you would have got.
I gotcha. So that's a great segue, Chris. What do you think are the biggest? So you're saying don't give away the farm. What are the biggest mistakes agents make? Let's start with that one. When you talk about don't give away the farm, what is something to hold in your back pocket? What is something that's going to be extra valuable? You want to make them, want to create a need, you want to create a desire for. Give us an example of what's the right way to do that when you
So
get an inbound lead that's talking to you.
so it honestly it changes, right? So first of all, it depends on their needs. Right now, there's a really big need for clarity on the market conditions, on what is
A
actually
hundred
going
percent,
on. So
hundred
right
percent.
now, that's what I'm using is with our time together, Gus, I'm going to be going over the current market conditions and give you the actual facts that I can show you the data to back it up. And then that way you know exactly what to expect and you can get ahead of the curve and take advantage of what's going on right now instead of getting behind, and maybe you'll get a better rate down the road in 6 months, but I guarantee you're going to pay more for that house.
Gotcha. So you're kind of setting, you're laying it out depending on kind of what their concerns are, what their needs are, what their questions are.
Yep, exactly. And
I got it. I got it.
it's all based on the person. And that's why everything that I don't have any scripts. There's nothing for me to have scripted. The biggest thing is an agent has to if you want to convert leads at a super high level that are internet based, you have to get comfortable with not knowing what not focusing on what to say and being able to listen to the lead. If you will spend so many agents I've seen in different like script practices and all that, they're so focused on what to read or what to say that they're not listening to me. That's the problem.
Got it. So you're saying that you've got to react to what their concerns are, what their questions are, kind of what their priorities are, what their goals are, and you kind of craft your approach kind of based on that, and you're making it valuable to them. You're finding a way to make it valuable to them. You're finding a way to add value to their specific situation, their specific needs, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely.
100%.
It has to be custom tailored. It has to be.
I love that because there's a great book here behind me, Too Nice for Sales, which is describing a lot of what you're saying. It's resonating with me because one thing that I really agree with on that book, it says when you're talking to a lead for the very first time, the goal shouldn't be how soon can you meet at the property, how soon can you book them for an appointment. The goal should be how soon can you show them you're valuable, right? How soon can you show them that talking to you is going to be good for them, is going to be valuable for them. And that's what you're saying. That you're laying
Mhm.
out a value proposition on why you should meet with them. And you're talking about the market conditions. You're talking about what's another example. That's a great hook. That's a great, angle to get, because there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety around the current market conditions. I mean, it's like interest rates, getting a
Yep.
deal, those kinds of things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so many people are focused on booking appointments, and it's not for me at this point, it's about the appointment count for the challenge that I'm currently doing, but it's you have to treat people as people. You can't treat people as numbers. You have to actually care. The biggest thing that helped me a lot is I hate salespeople. So if you call me and you hit me with a script and I know you're reading, I'm just gonna hang up. If you call me and
you're
you're personal
disengaged.
with me, I will listen to you. And that's even if I don't want it, I'll still listen to you out of the respect for the business. But the
Yeah.
thing is so many people are they all like agents specifically, they want to find the easiest way to convert a lead. They want to find the magic pill of prospecting, and there isn't one. You
Yeah.
have to put in the work. You have to either focus on how you're going to convert or how many doors you're going to knock or whatever the case is. You can use AI, but guess what? AI is not going to replace the actual relationship you have. And in fact, if you overuse AI, it's going to ruin those relationships. I had two clients that all I've had so far with them is an introduction phone call this week. Both of those people have sent me referrals, one from for their daughter and one from a friend. They sent me referrals. I haven't even had the buyer appointment with them yet. That's how much value they got in the phone call with me. That's why on Monday
Just
I
on
only
that
made
first interaction. Wow.
yes, that's why I only made 36 calls in 2.5 hours. You don't have to be Like, I'm only going to be on the phone with you for 5 minutes. There's a point you'll understand and know that, hey, this guy is going to waste my time, or this person's not going to. It's a we're going down a really big rabbit hole, and I need to get out. You gotta cut that off before it gets there. And there are definitely, I'm going to call them tire kickers. There are definitely tire kickers that are going to do that to you, and you got to know when to say, listen, I want to help you. I'm all about doing whatever I can to serve you. And at the same time, I need to know that you are actually ready to go before we start this process. And just be real with them. I think a lot of agents, like when it comes to a buyer agreement, they're just scared to be for that pushback. Like I had a person today that was calling multiple agents. It was a really nice size deal. The commission would have been great, but he wants to keep working with different agents all around my area. And I'm like, listen, man, then we're just not a good fit. And that's okay, because I'm not a good fit for everybody. But if you want to be exclusive with us, then we can certainly take care of it. And he had no intention on doing that. So I just parted, just said that it's not going to work out. And it's
I know.
okay. It's
I
okay to
love
say
that.
no.
Yeah, 100%, Chris. Because I think a lot of agents, especially with everything that's going on in the industry, right? The class action lawsuits around buyer agency, and on the regulation in some
Yep.
states already on the West Coast that are making buyer agreements mandatory. People are freaking out over that, right? If you're going to be coaching in that space, there is a huge need for buyer agents to, be more assertive and assert their value. And I don't I'm searching for a better term, but I'm going to just go out and say it, a little bit of self-respect, and demand that relationship with their clients, because it goes both ways. If you're going to have someone sign a buyer agency agreement with you that lays out what your responsibilities are, what their rights and responsibilities are, how much you're going to get paid, you got to control that relationship. It's and again, it's funny with the buyer's agents, because listing agents have been doing this from day one. Like, the listing agent knows
Mhm.
exactly what they need to do, because they have to take control and they have to show their value. I think a lot of buyer's agents, not all, but a lot of buyer's agents were kind of cruising on it. Oh, it doesn't cost you anything. Oh, don't worry, it's effortless to work with me because you don't have to pay me. So what? And so I vote for me. Even before this whole lawsuit mess, I thought that was a lazy way to do business. I don't think that was a proper way to do business. And the people that understood that would always ask for a buyer agency agreement, because you're hiring me, right? We're going to
Mhm.
work exclusively. Oh, you don't want to do that? Then we're not a good fit.
So
The
there's
top teams have always operated that way, right?
there is a absolutely, and there is an excellent script I'll share with whoever's watching this. The way to get around that, at least unless you reach out to me, I can help you further. But the way to get around that one thing is to say, listen, whatever home you decide you want to buy, that's great. But guess what? That listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to represent that seller's best interest. For me to be able to represent your best interest, I need to have an exclusive commitment to you. So on paper that I'm representing your best interest. Period. Do you have a problem with that? Who's going to have a problem with that? Nobody.
I
Nobody's going to have
got
a problem, but you got to tee it up and you have to handle the objection before it can happen. That's a really big thing. Handling the objection before it can happen. So, for instance, I've had, um, sometimes we've had actual costs associated with that. So there could be a transaction fee or something along those lines on the team I was on. I never got pushback on it. But the biggest problem that I think that people feel like they are kind of just they can't ask for it is they don't actually believe that they bring enough value to the table to be worthy of the commission. That's the problem.
100%. 100%. That's it. You hit the nail on the head. No,
And
no
those
ifs,
people
ands, or
shouldn't be
buts.
in
You don't think you
business,
deserve
in
it.
my opinion.
You don't think you deserve it.
If you don't think you deserve it, then why should they think you deserve
100%. Right. Definitely. And and I think that the regulations probably on the way. It's just going to make it no longer a nice to have. It's going to make it a requirement, and it's going to make that discussion. And buyers agents have to have it first with themselves, and then with the client. That absolutely it's worth it. That
it? Yep.
absolutely you're providing value. You're not just opening doors. And I think the agents that just open doors and work for free are going to go away. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. I think, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So, so
No,
sue me, don't get mad, people here. I don't want to trigger you. My intention is not to be controversial. I think that's just going to happen because of all these different forces we're seeing, in the marketplace. And I think consumers will be better served. That might be controversial. I think consumers will be better served by professional buyers agents that are able to clearly articulate their value. I
yep.
don't think that's an unreasonable ask, right?
I mean, I'm no, not at all. I mean, if I'm going to hire an attorney, I want to know that they're going to do the job. I want to know that they're able to do it, that they're going to get it done. We get paid pretty well for what we do. So if you're going to get the job done, you can't just stick a sign in the yard and disappear. That's the number one complaint I hear from expired leads. He just never showed up again. Like, okay, whatever. Thanks for the
Yeah.
opportunity. And the thing is about it is sometimes people they put so much emphasis on one thing. Like there's certain agencies out there that are like, we've got this all of this paperwork to show you what we're going to do with your house. And I'm going to take this marketing thing to your house and we're going to sell this to you, right? Guess what? This is what I take. This is what I take when I go to a listing appointment. This is what I take when I go to a buyer appointment. This is my phone because on my phone is where they're going to e-sign the document for me to work with them. I don't
Wow.
need anything else, and I don't pull the phone out. I don't pull a camera out or a laptop out, a tablet out, a phone out when I'm speaking to someone. When you're speaking to your leads, you're there to build a relationship. You're not there to look at a screen together. We could have just got on Zoom for that.
Got it.
And so many people are used to the crutches of computers or whatever you got. They're used to that crutch. And there's certain ways that if you want to take a paper contract, I get that. That's probably a better way to do it if you want to hold the paper, but I don't really want it to do that. I'd rather it all be digital. Um, but absolutely. And I agree with you that there's going to be a flush and there already has been a flush out and it needs to happen. It's just there's the barrier to entry is so low that it's kind of a necessity that it has to happen. But back to what I was saying about the attorney is I'm not going to hire a weak attorney. It's not my personality. I want someone who's going to be aggressive and it's going to be very smart being aggressive. Being loud and aggressive isn't helpful if it's not strategic. So
Effective,
I
right?
present
Effective.
I present my same self to my clients. Very knowledgeable about anything. I don't need to wear a $3,000 suit to take your listing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be at every showing to accompany. All these people are licensed that are showing your house. I'm not accompanying them. I set all these expectations on the front end, right? And that's another thing is people are afraid to set expectations. They're afraid to put limitations out there. But in the reality, the the consumer will actually appreciate that I'm not available on Sunday mornings. I've spent time with my family at church. I'm not available. It's just what it is. They'll appreciate you saying this is what it is. They appreciate the rules. Most people will appreciate that because if they don't, and if you don't share it with them, then when they go to the open house and they write an offer with the agent that's there because you didn't answer the phone, that's on you. You know, and I would say even if you have a buyer agreement, that should still be on you. You have to be available. You have to be available for your client.
100%. I like that. And Chris, I want to be mindful of your time. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. But I want to finish up with this. What are three recommendations? What are three tips? Give people some three nuggets that they can use to be more effective at converting these leads. I'm sure you have like dozens, but what would you say are your top three things people can take away today and implement today when they're making their calls or tomorrow morning, when they're making their calls and following up with these internet leads because it can be a tough task. It can be not very fun. But what can they do to make it more effective? What do you think?
Whether you're a rookie agent or a veteran agent, practice is going to help you. You need to get in an alignment with a group of people to do script practice. Don't practice on the leads that you're buying. Practice on the people that already have a license. It makes more sense that way. That's what I did a lot of the time when I was first starting out. It's a ton of script practice every day for about 40 minutes. Script practice every day. So Find a partner. I'm sure there's someone in your pipeline here, Gus, that wants to partner up with somebody else and get this thing done and try to actually build. So script practice is a must. If you're already beyond script practice, then I want, and this goes for everybody, you need to double call these leads. If you get a lead that comes in, I don't know if I must be the only one on the planet that has issues with my phone. Sometimes it rings 3 times, sometimes it rings once, sometimes it rings 5 times. I'm going to call you probably at least 2 times, only if I get a full ring in. If I don't, I'm calling you 3 times. I don't give up on leads. So if you have leads sitting in your pipeline that are dead or you think they are, have you called them? I call the minimum amount I call a lead is 26 times. I will call you
Wow.
26 times before I throw you in the trash. Period.
Yes.
That's just the standard.
And that's over what amount of time? Is it a month? Is it a couple months? What is that time frame, do you
It's
think?
typically over I would say probably 6 months.
Got it. Got it. Got
I
it.
would
Got it.
say
So
over six
intense at the
months.
beginning and then kind of tapers off a little bit, I guess.
Right.
Love it.
Another idea that I would like to share with people that's it's not it's based on internet leads, but it's not so much as the conversion of it is whenever you get a lead that's already bought, we've all had them. What do? We throw them away.
Fashion.
No, you don't throw it away. You put it in your CRM, you put a tag on it of some sort that's giving you bought home in 2023. Okay. And then you follow up with them once a year. Who cares? You keep following
Love
up
it.
with them. And eventually it
Most
comes back to
clients
you.
are abandoned. Most clients are orphaned
Yes,
by their agents. 100%. You're right.
absolutely. Absolutely. So obviously it's like a 7 year turnaround is when people usually move. And that's fine, but I'm gonna call you once a year to check in, right?
Love it.
Another really good tip is, and this is really game changing for me when I started to figure it out. And I figured it out back when I was doing sales at Costco, but I never actually implemented it and I never thought of it for a long time in real estate. And that is whatever time an internet lead tells you that they want you to follow up or whatever, cut it in half. They tell you 6 months, you're calling them in 3 months. I promise you. If you don't, you will eventually, if you haven't already, lost the opportunities. Chances are, if you wait 6 months, you're going to call. They just closed 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Happened all the time. So that's another thing. And the last thing I'll share with the viewers here is that ultimately, if you don't call your leads, you're basically giving them you're doing a disservice to them. If you truthfully believe that you're the best, like the best candidate, the best agent that they could get in your space, then you're doing a disservice to them to not continue to follow up with them and give them the opportunity to work with what you believe is the best person in their place. So if you don't do that, you're basically giving yourself the no from them instead of going for it. That's all I got for right now.
I love it. It's great stuff. Great stuff, Chris. Awesome, man. It's been a great conversation. I love talking to practitioners, folks that are in the trench making those calls. Chris, if people have more questions for you, want to continue the conversation, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Honestly, the best way to reach out to me is directly, like with a text message, or to reach out to me on Facebook. That would be the best way to do it.
I love
So
it. What's the best number for you? What's the best number?
my direct number is 407-285-9724. So if I'm awake, I work basically if I'm not with my kids. But even when I'm with my kids, I answer my phone. So, but that would be the best way. If you don't, you look up Chris Sanford, Stellar Home Sales, Orlando, you'll find me that way. Um, that's really the two ways that you can find me. I've got some Instagram and Facebook stuff going on, but really the phone number is going to be the best way if you're serious and you want to get in contact with me. That's the best way to do it.
I love it. Awesome. And congrats, on the coaching program. I think you're going to be very successful because you've done this in the corporate setting. You're doing it now in the real estate space, and you figured something out. You figured something out, right? And you're in the process of scaling it. So I look forward to. I'd love to have you here in the group again in a few months, see how things are going.
Absolutely.
Share some of that insight because you had a really great year in 2023, which was a very challenging year for real estate. Let's not mince words. It was not easy to get deals going in 2023. It looks like you definitely figured some stuff out. You're doing this at a really, really high level. So congrats to you, Chris, and you're always welcome, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gus. You guys take care.